Hi, welcome back to my podcast, Hosting Heaven. My name is Gabrielle Burton, and I am a Christian licensed marriage and family therapist with 10 years of experience specializing in narcissistic and spiritual abuse. And I'm also the author of the book, The Ultimate Guide to Becoming a Gold Digger, Discovering the Hidden Treasures Within. It is a book that combines biblical and mental health principles to help you dive deeper into your relationship with God, yourself, and others. You can get your copy in the link below. Today, I am really excited with the guest that I have today, my good friend, Deborah Armstrong. I'm just really excited to have you here today. I have really enjoyed getting to know you over the last few months, and I just think that you are just such a gem. You have such a wonderful, sweet spirit, and I just always love hearing what you have to share with us. Yeah.
Thank you, Gabrielle.
You're welcome.
I enjoy being with you as well, so thank you.
Of course.
For everything.
You're welcome.
So Gabby and I met about 4 or 5 months ago.
Yep.
And we met, I found her online because I wanted to go to a Christian Bible study. And so I've been coming to her Bible study, and I've been learning so much about the Word, of course, and then so much about my own personal self and some areas in my life that I need to work on as well. So thank you for what you do.
Oh, goodness. No, I'm grateful for you. I feel like you're, every week, you're so dedicated. You're always here. You're always ready to learn, even if there have been weeks, because it was a Saturday, where people can't make it. You're always ready to show up, and I just really appreciate you. And I've also loved, getting to know some of your family, your son and your grandson, and things like that. So I just think you're a gem.
Well, thank you. You too.
You're welcome. Well, today we're going to dive into your story.
Okay.
And so I know you have a really rich story, and I think the topic is something that a lot of people deal with, but maybe don't always feel comfortable talking about openly. And so wherever you feel comfortable sharing, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thank you. Well, I want to start off by sharing my friend's story. So I have a friend that shared with me many years ago how she was raised in a home where domestic violence occurred. She shared with me how she remembered the screams, the yelling, and the name callings. She also remembers how her mother reacted when this was going on, and how she would sometimes get upset with her children and take it out on her children as well. I remember her telling me that her mother also was a woman who pretended that things were right, didn't want to talk about it, and just thought that this was just the normal. And so I questioned, why was this happening? I questioned why, because I know other people and other families where this was happening to them as well, and that they chose to remain in those relationships. And I remember my friend telling me, she goes, you know what? I said, what? She goes, I'm never going to be in an abusive relationship. And I said, well, I'm not going to either. So we agreed that we weren't. And so what happened is the questioning kept happening. So my friend shared with me that one time she was involved with this gentleman, and they were just dating, and he started being cruel to her, calling her names, putting her down, and he started controlling her, telling her what she can and cannot do. Then he started making threats to her, telling her that he had a gun hidden in a closet, and that if she opened this closet, that it would go off and kill her. And so my friend said, and for months she wouldn't go in that closet. She made an excuse, and her excuse was, I don't need to go in that closet because all my other clothes are in my second closet. And so what happened is one day she got brave, and she opened up that closet. There was no gun in there.
Wow.
She believed that for many months that there was. She also remembered this gentleman telling her one day if she didn't do something that he wanted her to do. Basically what he wanted her to do was take all of her clothes off and go outside and be in the nude so people could see what kind of trap she was, And so she begged and she pleaded and she screamed and everything for that not to happen to her. As for some reason, he didn't make her do this. So she also described to me another incident, which was the incident that was probably the hardest for her to ever take. And that is that she decided to break it off. And when she broke it off, it wasn't over for him. He kept trying to break into her house. He would knock on the doors late at night. She's afraid to open the doors One time she did call the police, but the police never showed up, and she was so grateful that they didn't because she figured that something bad would have happened to her. In addition to that, she saw him try to break in through the kitchen window, because she lived on a ground floor apartment. And there was many nights she got up at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, went to her grandfather's house and stayed with him. Well, one night he was successful in breaking in. And he started calling her names, telling her that she was his and that she couldn't go anywhere. He put her hands around her throat and started strangling her.
Oh my gosh.
Because she had moved from the kitchen area through the living room to the bathroom area. And her head was arched back. And she was trying to tell him to stop. And this is what changed her life. All of a sudden, she heard herself using her mother's voice. Stop. I'll do anything you ask me to do, just stop. And for some unknown reason, he stopped. She really believed that somebody somewhere was praying for her. And so that opened up her eyes. And this is when she was an adult. And so she had a younger sister, and her younger sister was also in a very violent relationship, more sexual violent relationship, where this gentleman had her doing things she should not have been doing. And she knew not to do it, but she just did. And so her sister died at the age of 23.
Oh, because of the relationship?
Because of the relationship.
Oh my goodness.
Because of the relationship. And so my friend shared with me that her sister died as a result of domestic violence.
Oh my gosh.
So all of that led me to my passion of working with victims of domestic violence. And of all the different employments I've had in the past, that is what gave me the joy of doing that type of work. I just want to tell you all that friend that I was talking about is me. That is my life story. And so because of that is why I then, after I worked in the shelter for a while, somebody else's shelter, I opened my own domestic violence shelter.
Wow.
I'm no longer affiliated with that shelter, but that shelter is still in operation to this day.
Amazing.
And I wanted to help African American women, although I helped all women. And I wanted the shelter to be different. And the way the shelter was different is I let women come into the shelter that had teenagers, including teenage boys. Back in the days, you didn't do that, okay? I also wanted to be different by making it more a family atmosphere and a more respectful atmosphere, in a sense that it was our requirement as a staff and team members that for every woman and every little girl, we called her Miss and her first name. For every little boy, we called him Mr. and his first name. And I totally believe in family meetings, so if there was a conflict, we would have our family meetings too.
I love that.
Thank you. And my reach out was to the churches, educating them about the issue. And the way the domestic violence shelter started, prior to that I was doing domestic violence groups for the Christian women. And I remember years ago, I went to my pastor and I told him, Pastor, his name is Taylor, I said, I want to do a domestic violence group for women. He goes, and they called me Debbie back then. Debbie, that's God, that's God, that's God. And so that's how the group started.
Amazing.
And then the shelter came after that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow. As you were sharing your story, it's like I was getting chills. I was getting chills because it's like, one, your sister. I'm so sorry.
Me too, thank you.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
How did your sister pass?
Well, she actually became a prostitute. Yes, and so she just died because of her lifestyle. Yeah.
Were you guys close?
Yes and no. And I say that because she was totally different to me.
Of course.
She was a lot louder and wild than I was, and she would drive me, I always say back then, crazy, because our lifestyles were so different. But of course, she was my sister. I loved her.
Yeah.
And I remember at her funeral, when we had to go around to see her, I remember I started crying and asking her, why did she leave me? And I remember I was married at the time and had a son, and he was only 9 months old. That's the one, you know.
Yeah.
And so my husband and my cousin came. I guess they thought I was going to pass out or something. To me, I thought I was just being normal, you know. But domestic violence hurts. Domestic violence, and I didn't get physically abused from him. It was emotional and the mental, the threats. And people don't realize how much damage they do to their children, because I struggled for many, many, many years because of the things that I saw and heard.
Absolutely.
You know, and I was a Christian, was raised in church, but you know, and it was amazing how some churches didn't even want to deal with the issue.
Yeah.
You know.
Why do you think that is?
I think they think that, from my experience, I know some churches, the pastors were abusive to their wives. And I think that causes a form of denial. And others, you know, we live in a culture, I was raised in cultures where we're told that what goes inside of our house, don't share it with outside in the public.
Yeah. What happens at home stays at home. Yeah.
Exactly.
Or don't put the family business out in the streets.
Exactly. Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Wow. I mean, I'm grateful for you sharing all of that. I definitely think it was awesome that you had a pastor that was supportive.
Yes.
I definitely know, like you had mentioned, that there are a lot of times churches don't want to talk about these types of things. I love that you also wanted to focus on Christian women. How come?
Because I was a Christian, you know, and even as a little girl growing up, I would go to church, and I knew women in that church that were being abused.
Wow.
When I started my shelter, I called it Safe Embrace. It's still in my hometown to this day, still operating. But there was women from different churches that would come to me, not to the shelter, but come to me in private and share with me things.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So I'm curious as to how, do you think there's a correlation between Christian women and being abused?
I do. And I think it's because it's a topic that people don't want to talk about. And so where do they go? And then for those I have heard in the past that have gone to their churches, their departments, you know, whatever they went to, that they were told to pray and to be a better wife.
Pray and stay.
Pray and stay.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, what does that do to somebody when they are going to these places that are supposed to be places of refuge and they're told, like, you got to make some changes? What does that do to somebody?
It basically teaches them that, you know what, no one's going to listen to me.
Yeah.
I have nowhere to go. No one's going to help me. My pastor is telling me to stay and pray, or the first lady could be telling me that. And so if I go get help, then I'm going against God's word.
Because that's the spiritual authority in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you, while you were going through any of that, did you ever go to your pastor or leader when you were going through any of that? No. And you mentioned that it mostly was mental and emotional abuse.
Correct.
Obviously, having you think that there was a gun and it was never there.
Right.
But how, you know, your body just already kind of responded to all these threats and things like that, and that's what kept you compliant.
Right.
What was the worst that it got?
The worst is when I was being strangled.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I knew that I was going to die.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was the worst.
And oftentimes when it comes to abuse, it generally actually doesn't always start out physical.
Correct.
It usually does start out with mental and emotional abuse.
Correct.
And it's like they're trying to kind of increase your tolerance for the abuse.
Right. That's true.
What was happening with you while you were in that relationship? Can you explain to me, like, that version of Deborah? What were you like? Were you constantly second guessing yourself? What were your relationships like? Just kind of describe who you were then.
Well, I never really believed in myself.
Yeah.
Because I was raised in a family with a mom and a stepfather, and I was kind of like the bastard child. Okay. And so I never really, I was told to be quiet. I was a talker. Well, and I was very shy too, both at the different times. And so I was always told no one wanted to hear what I had to say. So that made me feel like I wasn't good enough to begin with. You know, I had a lot of doubt in myself. And at the time I was when I was in that relationship, I was going to college because that's something I wanted to do, of course. And so I just felt like, you know, I was born in a community where there was about 2% African Americans there.
Okay.
So I am used to the stares. I am used to people following us when we're in a store. I'm used to being called the N word. And so because of all of that just kind of kept my self-esteem going down and down and down and down.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. When you met this person, this man, what were some red flags maybe about the relationship, either when you were dating or married, that you could maybe give to the audience?
Well, of course, he was good looking in my eyes, and he was very charming. Said the right words that, you know, any person wanted to hear.
So are those red flags?
Yeah, saw those red flags.
Oh,
yes, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
My mom even told me that, you know, he wasn't a good guy. Of course, I didn't listen to her.
Your mom told you?
She told me, and my attitude was, how are you going to tell me anything? Look at you, you know.
Wow.
I didn't say that out loud.
No, but yeah.
But I thought it, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, so, you know, I think it's just being defiant just because she told me he wasn't the right one for me.
And I mean, it's hard, yeah, because you didn't have trust in her judgment.
Right, exactly.
And so you went along, and I mean, you didn't already feel good about yourself, so to have someone who was very good looking, very charming, pursuing you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But mom actually was right.
Right, yeah, she's
Okay.
absolutely right.
Wow.
And just seeing that he was into a lifestyle that he tried to hide from me, that I definitely wasn't into that lifestyle at all.
Like, what was it?
Like drugs.
Oh, wow.
That's
Yeah.
not me.
Totally.
Never has been. And then also just hearing stories of he would share about what happened to other women, but he was sharing with me that he wasn't the one that did these things, it was his brother. And so come to find out later, it was actually him that did those things, you know, to other women, physically abused.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. When did you start feeling unsafe in the relationship?
I guess I felt unsafe because of the things I was seeing.
Okay.
Yeah. And the stories I was hearing from him. And then the lies he was telling me, you know, and stuff like that. And one time I met his mother, and his mother even told me, you need to leave him alone. I didn't know he was married. He told me he wasn't. And so the mother was telling me that she just was shocked because she knew I was a Christian, that I would be involved with a married man. And I shared with her.
Like, you had no idea?
I had no idea.
Wow.
And she told me that he wasn't a good guy.
Oof.
As well.
Wow. So really, I think that you are pointing out some really important things, is really listening to wise counsel in your life, and especially people that know him, right? Like listening to what the people in that person's life have to say about them. Not hearing what you want to hear, but literally taking heed to what they're saying.
So my fear.
Okay.
I met the father of my son, and I'm not gonna say I wasn't attracted to him and I didn't fall in love with him. However, I got married.
Okay.
And when I say married, it wasn't a long courtship, you know. And so we got married, but I knew that I didn't want to have kids for 2 years because I needed to get to know him better.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. So that was after this abusive relationship.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he was overall a good guy.
I'm curious to know more about this idea of Christian women.
Okay.
You know, I specialize in narcissistic and spiritual abuse, and so I've definitely seen a lot of Christian women find themselves in abusive marriages. And I appreciate you mentioning that a lot of it may not always be physical, but the mental and the emotional abuse, and a lot of times people don't know how to spot it. What are some signs or symptoms that they should look for to help them identify that this might be that type of relationship?
Right. I think we need to listen to our body and how we feel and how we tense up when certain things are said. One of my pet peeves is having someone and hearing women say that their spouse required for them to be submissive.
Okay, yep.
You know, they would lose their independence when the form that maybe they wanted to do, they had a project or something that they wanted to do, and that was always overlooked, so they couldn't be who they really were destined to be.
Yep.
Another thing is that it was believed in those gender specific roles, that as a woman you have to do this, as a man I have to do this, something totally different.
Sure.
So those are just some really things to look at, and look at how they treat you in public.
Yeah.
Are they kind and loving to you in public, or do they demean you in front of their friends or other people that's maybe in the church with you? You also want to pay attention to how they describe you. Do they say things such as, you know what, don't listen to her, she's so silly, she doesn't know what she's talking about, or do they always show that ultimate respect?
Yeah.
Are they kind to other people in the community, but at home they're not? At home they're yelling at you, calling you names, putting you down, and maybe even threatening to hit you or hurt you. As you mentioned earlier, the mental abuse is the worst abuse out there, because those are the things that sticks with us.
Right. Right.
Physical, yes, you may acquire scars, but with the physical, those go away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. I mean, being in an abusive relationship, that really does change your brain chemistry, right? And then it has your body in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, because you're not safe.
Right.
I know you mentioned, though, to listen to your body. The problem, though, is what happens when we're in trauma for so long, we actually disconnect from our bodies.
Yes.
A thing called derealization can happen, or depersonalization, where you don't feel connected to your body because our bodies have betrayed us for so long. One of the things that I like to say for people, if they're in a relationship that just always feels really like confusing or like what is going on, I tell my clients to write things down. Write things down, or if you ever feel like you have like a need or a desire to like record conversations, that's also a good indicator that it's probably not the healthiest situation, because you might walk away going, what was just said? Like, why am I so confused? Or how did that get flipped on me when I'm just asking for a simple, like human decency here. I'm just asking for consideration or communication, and now all of a sudden you're selfish or there's something wrong with you. Those are indicators of just not being able to ask for basic relational things. Financial abuse is also another one.
That's true.
Financial abuse where they may hold all the financial power, and you're not able to do certain things if they don't allow you to work, or they don't want you to work, or whatever that is. That's another part of it as well. And then also, like, if you feel embarrassed about anything that's going on, like you don't want to talk about anybody about your relationship, that's also really big and a big red flag. How should pastors respond to these types of accusations? And I think of it too, we're talking, specifically domestic violence, but sometimes these types of things actually happen in church dynamics, leadership even, where there's just really unkind things happening within, staff and things. How should pastors respond to things like that?
I think the way that pastors should respond when that's going on in your church, and believe me, it is going on in your church, and the reason why, because 1 out of 5 women that's in your church are being abused by someone they love and care for. So when someone comes to you, my strongest suggestion is to get a team of people together, preferably women, together, that they can be not only educated on the issue, but also have what we call a support group available to them. That they will have a place that they can go to and talk to other women that have been through something similar. If you don't want to do it within your church, you could also, there's places in the community, safe houses, there's domestic violence support groups. Those are usually free. Refer them to go to something like that as well.
Ideas around safety planning and just also like confidentiality and things like that. I think something that hard in church communities is, people will share things and then it's not always kept confidential. Sometimes it's we got to pray for so-and-so, but that information can get back. How do people know how to make sure that they're being safe and trauma informed in these types of situations? Because the most dangerous time for a woman who's in a domestic violence situation is the time that she tries to leave.
That's true.
The most dangerous time. And so very, very important that, pastors know how to handle that carefully.
Right. So yes, safety planning is great, and the safety planning has to be individualized to meet what that woman and her children, if she has children, can do. Also directing them to go into safe homes as well. Some people have to change their names and their identity,
Yep.
And hide out that way. But I think the best thing for pastors and their congregations who's spearheading this is to learn the facts, okay, about domestic violence. The best gift you can give a woman that's going through this is to listen. Or if you're not capable of listening, have someone designated in your church that can listen. In addition to that, I like to refrain from people. The church community is really good at saying brokenness. Women are broken. No, the issue is domestic violence. Use the word. Don't be afraid to use that word because that's what it is. Okay? These women are not victims. They are survivors.
Amen.
And so when we know that, we're going to treat them differently as a survivor.
Amen.
And if it's really difficult for you to get this concept into your heart and your mindset, ask yourself this question: what would I do if that was my daughter, my niece? What help would I get for her?
I love that. I love the language around that because I do agree with you. I think, teaching people that they're broken, that those types of things are what keep people in those types of spaces because it's like they believe that that's what they deserve. So a victim mindset is, why do they treat me like this? A victor mindset says, why did I choose to stay? And when they know that they have choices and they have safe places and safe people, they feel more empowered. Educating yourselves on these different issues is so important. Studies still show that even though there's a lot of things wrong in the church is still the number one place people turn to in times of crisis and need. And we have to be trauma informed and we have to be ready to help people in these types of situations and not tell them that they need to stay and pray. We need to make sure we're following through and following up and not leaving someone hanging, because it takes a lot for someone to break that silence. And your response can make or break her.
That's true.
So I love that you shared that. And I think that this is such an important message that I really hope a lot of church leaders and pastors take heed to. Because like you said, 1 in 5 women. If you could leave the audience with one word of encouragement, what would you say?
My call to action would be listen. Listen to the survivor. Listen to her stories without judgment. Believe her. She's not telling stories or fairy tales. She's only telling you a piece of what actually happened to her. There's a lot more than what she will share to begin with.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you.
You're so welcome.
I appreciate you sharing your friend's story. I'm assuming that friend is also your best friend, meaning your relationship with yourself has completely improved.
Yes, it has.
And I'm so grateful that God used your pain and your suffering to become something that you've actually been able to use to support so many other people. So I'm very grateful for you, and I just appreciate you sharing with us here today.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, if you guys appreciated Deborah's story, feel free to drop anything in the comments below, anything that you learned, maybe some key takeaways, and appreciate you guys being here, and I'll see you in the next episode.